One more, and then I can have a break for dinner.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll have Ray back.
A new point on the new section to the Social Security Act. This is section 3110D on page 5, lines just after 5 to about, well, basically the whole page. But so this is on the first, on Roman numeral 1, and this is around the MSD must notify or advise beneficiaries. Now, I wanted to ask, because there's nothing here in the legislation, and we are thinking of potentially looking at amending this so that...
Which page is it?
So this is post 4, new section 3110D, page 5. So this is 3110D, MSD must notify or advise beneficiaries. Thanks for seeking clarification. So I wanted to understand if the minister had produced a list or what level of accountability exists for MSD around the means that that communication needs to happen. So for example, does MSD need to exhaust all types of communication before they potentially trigger the suspension of someone for needing to not comply? So for example, what are MSD's responsibilities and obligations? Because she talks a lot about the responsibilities of people with the benefit, but it seems like there doesn't seem to be the other side. Around, for example, whether MSD must first attempt to communicate with someone via the phone, via mail, via text, via message on my MSD portal, and whether all of those avenues need to be first exhausted. I asked this, and this is really important because, for example, having worked as a welfare advocate prior to coming to Parliament, I did see a lot of people who, for example, had really old phone models with cracked screens, second-hand phones, for example, because that's all that they can get, and it means that accessing my MSD can be difficult. People who could be having literacy issues and missing out on being able to, and as my colleague Madame Kapakini talked about, people who are just not digital natives, and so. If, for example, some of these forms of communication are primarily happening through online correspondence, I can see that people could easily miss those. I'm keen to get an assurance from the minister around this new section 3110D, around the safeguards, around the means that MSD must use to communicate with people before basically taking someone's benefit away, before we consider putting an amendment to add these safeguards and ensure that MSD tries basically every possible option. That's right, yeah, and also when it comes to correspondence, my colleague Tamatha Powell just made a great point that, for example, when it comes to correspondence, physical correspondence, the issue that we also have with renters, but actually people in emergency housing, people who may be boarding, which is one of the groups that she seems to want to target, people may have old addresses in the system, they may be living through toxic stress, which means they may not be able to access, my MSD to update their information. But anyway, my point, that's my main question on 3110D. And then I wanted to talk about some of the unintended fiscal implications that particularly the provisions in Clause 4 have, but actually throughout all of Part 1. This is because, as my colleague Francisco Hernandez touched about, the minister has refused to proactively, for the debate, so that we can scrutinize, release the breakdown of those savings. But I do wonder whether MSD considered the unintended fiscal consequences of some of the people losing their benefit then require other forms of assistance with other parts of the system. That's a cost. It seems like the analysis and the risk didn't account for how, for example, people may end up requiring to access assistance from other parts of the system. And I am worried that therefore the analysis and the minister is not intentionally, but perhaps maybe just through lack of information, mischaracterizing the savings that she is making as part of this bill. Because I can see that if someone's left without a benefit, they could end up requiring, even if they get back on the benefit later down the line, to access hardship grants, to access advances, to access emergency accommodation, and those have costs for the government. Those do not seem to be accounted for in the risk. This is something we could have asked from officials at the select committee stage, not wait until the minister chooses to proactively maybe perhaps release that information somewhere in her website. So again, I do think it would be useful for the minister to at least tell us if there was an analysis of potential unintended fiscal consequences as a result of these costs being passed on to other parts of the system. And to recap on my previous point, if the minister would like to outline what means does MSD must try to use to notify or advise beneficiaries before potentially taking someone's benefit away. Is there a list? And if not, would she be open to an amendment to expand that?
Ingrid Leary.
I think we need to introduce a rule in the House where if you don't answer 3 damn questions, you're out. 3 strikes, you're out. Apply it to debates.
Well, I think that might be a recommendation to put for standing orders. I think, is Ricardo on that standing orders committee? Because I think that would be a very good thing to put into the standing orders committee is... just a moment while I find out who is on the standing orders committee. Sorry, it's taken a bit of a while.
No, that's all right.
No, Ricardo is on the standing orders committee, and so is Mareta Mino Kapakini. So we've got two ways of going in. We could get a third way for Kira McAnulty. We could ask John Stevenson.
Oh, can we? I also want to have
for that.
I also want a proposal put through the House as well. If you do a seat warmer speech, I want your seat to set on fire, so when you sit down, you get a burnt ass. Because I'm sick of watching 10-second. I'm sick and tired of watching 10-second We
might see if we can graphically get that to happen.
Yeah,
in the background.
you sit down, your ass goes on fire.
Yeah. God, you're giving me good ideas.
Yeah.
Good ideas. Okay.